Lockman, and they're telling us about a fascinating new development in speech for the deaf. It's called cueing, and it's really a matter of combining the lips with phonetic symbols that, well, just is extremely innovative. I first want to say Ben has been just having a ball with our microphone over there. I want to ask him a question. See if he, Ben, can you say hello into the microphone? Can you say hello? Oh, Star is not yet born, but wait, we'll just watch. When the camera's off him, he's going to be a real charmer.
He's completely embarrassed.
Why? What makes you say that? I mean, I cover my hands over my face all the time. I want to ask you, you discovered that Ben was deaf at what age?
Approximately a year old.
And how did that make you feel?
Oh, it was very depressing. Extremely depressing.
You had no inkling before that?
Well, we suspected, that's why we had him tested. But there was a denial, and that's pretty typical. He can't be deaf. He can't be. And we found out he's deaf, and I clearly remember the day in the hospital of Gadzooks. How can this be? Why us? All those standard things. But for the first year after we found out he was deaf, we learned sign language and contacted the schools. And the schools, in fact, were very pleased with his learning sign language. And we went to evening classes and bought our Joy of Signing book and learned it.
But you were not happy with typical sign language?
Well, after about a year, I learned a couple hundred words. Mary Ann learned about twice that I knew, a few hundred words. And in language tests in the school, the people were ecstatic. A 2-year-old, he knew a few hundred words. He really knew the limit of what we knew, and that's it.
His testing showed him he was in the 96th to 99th percentile compared to hearing impaired children when he was 2 years old, but he was 16 to 14 months behind a hearing child's language. And this was considered good because if you compared him against hearing impaired children, but compared to hearing children, he was way behind.
And you wanted to somehow find a way to catch up?
Right.
And is that what led you to the discovery of cueing?
That was one of the things.
How did you discover it? Did you just stumble upon it? Because as Ron was just saying, that the man who invented it has only come out with it in the last 5 years, right?
Ron actually invented it on his own in addition, and he told the sign language teacher that there should be a phonetic sign language. And finally, after a number of weeks, she told us that it already existed. And we went to Washington and learned the cueing in a week. They have a workshop there every summer. This summer, there's going to be one in Chicago. So people don't have to go all the way.
So now, see, they say that necessity is the mother of invention, and you invented something that needed to be invented. And did you ever talk with the man who invented it?
Quite a bit. He basically gave the seminar, and he talked about it. Orrin Cornett is 66 years old, a bright and wonderful man. And not just us, but there are now a few thousand kids throughout the country using cued speech. We're just the only ones in this state.
What do you think your role is in enlightening the deaf community to this?
Well, we're proud of our role as kind of spearheading it here. There's been a great deal of interest since we've started this about a year and a half ago. And it's our hope to see this integrated as an option in a total communication package in many of the schools in this area.
Whether or not other people use it, Ben gets the benefit from it because it helps him. He now, the language he knows is English, so he can read lips without the cueing, and the language he speaks is English, so he can speak to you or to anyone else. He goes to school with completely hearing people.
That's right. Thank you.
All of his friends are hearing, and they don't cue, but they understand Ben fairly well.
Do you hope that they will learn to cue? Is that a reasonable expectation?
I think it's reasonable. The directress at the school does not really want, she wants the interpreter to do all of it, which is just fine also, because it's important that Ben learn to deal with, it's important that Ben learn to deal with people who hear. Then when he's older, if he wants to learn sign language, there's nothing that would prevent him from it. It's not hard to learn sign language if you're completely in a signing
Maybe you better just bend that mic back up.
There we go.
You can hold it. I love it. Here we're talking about communication, and it's very interesting that the one thing he's so fascinated with is the microphone.
Well, he gets up on tables and sings like he has a microphone.
Yeah.
He knows when
seems-
there's music. He likes to touch the speakers and all of that. So he's very fascinated by sound.
That's interesting. Do you see a change in him or in your life since you've had the cueing?
Significant.
In what way?
Basically, before we learned to cue, we couldn't really talk to him. In a sense, he stares up at the ceiling, the sky, and sees the moon. What's that? And quick, we have to get our Joy of Signing book. What's the word for moon?
Right.
Or we drive in a tunnel, and what's the word for tunnel? And for as far as we found, there was no word for tunnel. And after we learned to cue, within a week or two, we could say anything to him. Nonsense words, rhymes, funny phrases, and make jokes, and even sound jokes. Is this pop or is that pop? You know, do you drink pop? And there, all sorts of things just happened, and he became the way that we could interact with him. And in school, we've seen an incredible change in him, and that he's turned into, as far as language development, a normal 3-year-old. He comes and tells me stories about things he did in school today and all the great
Well,
stuff.
I sure hope you get this word out, because it's really a fascinating concept, and it sounds like it'd be really helpful to everyone. And good luck to you. Thanks for your time. Thank you, Ben. Ben?
Now that took courage. I am terrified of public speaking situations. In fact, I am very nervous now. We felt then, and we feel now, that cueing adds to the early communications of some children, certainly of Ben. If our actions help one child communicate with one parent, then the work is worth it.